There was a time you were wild, not reckless, careless. Wild, as in untouched by the noise, unscarred by rejection, remains. Unshaped by expectations that never belonged to you. You moved through the world like the world was your inheritance. Before they told you what was possible, presence remains, or they branded you with shame. Before they measured your worth with a ruler you never agreed to. You were infinite, and then the world intervened. Press remains. It dressed you in names that were not your own. It handed you mirrors forged by people who could not see themselves, recanes. It taught you to betray your own voice in exchange for praise that never lasted, love that was always conditional, and success that always came with a leash. Listen closely, because beneath the noise, beneath the roles, presence remains. Beneath the armor you were forced to wear just to survive, there is a truth that has never stopped whispering. Become who you are before the world told you who to be. That whisper, that's your soul, and it's still there. Buried maybe, but unbroken, waiting for the day you choose to remember. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But what he didn't say, what he left for us to uncover, is the war that must be fought to claim that privilege. Because becoming who you truly are is not a gentle unfolding. It is a tearing away, a confrontation, a rebellion against everything false that you've been taught to worship. You were born whole. You were born real. You were born powerful. The world does not know what to do with wholeness. It prefers pieces, labels, categories. You were divided. Presence remains. Sold a version of yourself that made you easier to manage, easier to break, easier to forget. You were never meant to be polite when you needed to scream. Pres remains. You were never meant to stay small to make others feel big. You were never meant to fit into systems that profit from your silence. No, you were meant to rise. But rising is not passive. Rising is not gentle. Rising is not pretty. Rising is choosing your voice when it shakes. Presence remains. Rising is facing your shadow, the parts of you you've exiled, the pain you've buried, the truth you've ignored, and making peace with all of it. Prigne, destroying the darkness, not tending it's not there, but integrating it, owning it, letting it fuel your fire without letting it consume your soul. Presence remains, because here's the truth: the self the world gave you, it's a mask, and the self you were born with, that's a revolution. Look at the greats. Edison, Carnegie, Disney, Ford, they didn't bend to the world, they broke it open. Edison wasn't afraid of the dark. He befriended it. Carnegie wasn't handed power. He carved it from hardship. Lincoln was not a polished man. He was a forged one. Disney was not reasonable. He was relentless. Ford did not ask for permission. He redefined what was possible, and none of them, none, were normal. Because normal is just another word for numb. You want to become who you truly are. Then feel again. Feel the hunger. Feel the ache remains. Feel the longing that you've suppressed for years because someone once told you it was too much. You are not too much. You are exactly enough. And you always were. You don't need another seminar, another affirmation, another book telling you how to succeed. You need silence, stillness, honesty. You need to sit in a room with yourself and ask, who was I before I was taught who to be? That child, that dreamer, wanderer, that creator, that storm, that peace, that is you, unedited, unfiltered, unashamed. Don't be fooled. Becoming that version of yourself again is not an escape from life. It is a descent into your depths, into the chaos, into everything you've spent a lifetime running from. The fear, the anguish, the yearning. Jung called it the shadow, the hidden half. Dark remains, the dark mirror, and only when you face it can you become whole. You cannot cherry-pick the parts of yourself that are convenient. You cannot only love the light and exile the dark, because that's not self-love. That's self-abandonment in disguise. The real you, the wild you, the true you, is not the or. It is both, and it is the warrior and the healer, the destroyer and the creator, the sinner and the sage. And every time you suppress one half, you lose power. you lose clarity, you lose yourself. So stop apologizing for your fire. Remains. Stop shrinking in the face of people who are afraid to burn. Stop explaining your path to those who've never dared to walk their own. Remains. There is no peace in pretending. There is no salvation in submission. There is no joy in being what the world wants when it costs you your soul. You were not born to blend in. You were born to break patterns. You were born to resurrect what was buried, to ignite what was forgotten, to remember what the world hoped you'd forget. And this very moment, this breath, is your invitation to rebel, not with fists, but with truth, with noise, but with presence. Not by becoming someone else, but by unbecoming everyone you're not. This is your path of comfort, but a path of clarity, not a path of imitation, but of individuation. Jung called it the process of becoming whole. Presence remains, of becoming who you are beyond your ego, beyond your persona, beyond the roles you've played to survive. It is the great return to authenticity, the heroic confrontation with your own depths. And it begins with one act, one decision, to stop running from yourself. Presence remains. You stop running when you finally understand that the pain you've been avoiding is the portal. The pain is not your enemy. The confusion is not your weakness. The longing is not your flaw. These are the signposts. Remains. The divine signals from the deepest parts of you that have been locked in the basement of your being, begging to be seen, heard, understood, not silenced, not exiled. This is the mindset you must claim, that nothing in you is wasted. Not your heartbreak, not your failures, not your shame, not even your rage. Remains. They are the coal that fuels the engine, and if you choose to face them, they will become your clarity. You see, we've been trained to seek comfort. Clarity rarely lives in comfort. Clarity lives in the storm, in the breakdown, in the nights when your soul sobs without words. Presence remains, because that is when the false self begins to crack, and through those cracks, the light begins to power in. You don't need to be fixed. Presence remains. You need to be found. You need to remember the parts of yourself you buried to survive in a world that taught you love was earned, worth was conditional, and power belonged to someone else. It's a lie. All of it. You were never powerless. They just taught you to hand your power away so they could feel safe. Remains. You were never broken. They just couldn't handle your wholeness. You were never meant to conform. You were meant to create, and creation begins with vision. But not the kind of vision they sell in corporate manuals and Instagram quotes. No, presence remains. I'm talking about the vision that behind your eyes when you close them at night. The one you've silenced because it felt too big, too impossible. So remains. Too dangerous. That's the one that matters, because that's the one that was given you for a reason. Jung believed that the deepest work of our lives is the work of becoming conscious of who we truly are, and then aligning our outer lives with that inner truth. And to do that, you must let go of borrowed dreams. The job you took to impress your parents, the relationship you clung to because you feared being alone. Presence remains. The city you live in because they told you it was safe. The version of success you're chasing that leaves your soul starving. Burn it all. Remains. Not literally, but spiritually. Because if the ladder you're climbing is leaning against the wrong wall, every step takes you further from yourself. Remains. You are not meant to live a life that looks good on paper and feels like prison in your chest. You were meant to live aligned, and alignment requires belief. Not in the surface you, the polished, presentable version you show the world, but in the untamed you, the intuitive you. Dithers, the you that knows things without knowing how it knows them. The world may laugh. Let them. They laughed at Galileo. They mocked the Wright brothers. They told Oprah she wasn't fit for television. They called Tesla insane. They tried to erase Van Gogh while he was still alive. Vision is not validated by applause. Vision is proven by persistence. You must be willing to walk alone, to be misunderstood, to stand in the fire of your own truth while others throw water on your dreams. Because belief is not comfortable. It is costly. It will cost you popularity. It will cost you approval. It will cost you the safety of the herd. But what you gain yourself. And when you have yourself, truly have yourself, the world can no longer manipulate you. You're no longer seduced by counterfeit power. You no longer chase love that feels like survival. You no longer seek validation from people who don't even see themselves. You no longer bow to fear dressed as practicality. You move differently, think differently. You show up differently, because you are no longer a product of your past. You are a vessel for your purpose, and your purpose is not a destination, it is a becoming. It is not a title or a role or a job description. It is an awakening, unraveling of everything false, a re-embodiment of everything true. It is the courage to walk into the unknown, armed not with certainty, but with conviction. Because deep down, you did not come here to be liked. You came here to be light. You did not come here to win followers, came here to win your soul. You did not come here to be safe. You came here to be seen, freely, fiercely. And that kind of authenticity, of clarity, it will cost you, but it will give you something far greater in returning peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from hiding, numbing, pretending, but that peace that comes from finally looking yourself in the mirror and saying, "This is me, all of me, presence remains, and I'm no longer afraid of my reflection." Because here's the true thing, the people who changed the world didn't do so by being palatable, they did it by being true. And the most dangerous thing you can do to a system built on fear is to stop being afraid of yourself. So rise remains, not because it's easy, but because you were built for it. Rise because every time you do, you remind the world that truth is still alive. Rise because the world doesn't need more copies. It needs originals. It needs your story, your scars, your resurrection. Needs the version of you that was buried under years of, and must, and maybe someday. Not someday. Now, this is the time. This is the hour. This is your moment of becoming. Not becoming someone else, but becoming who you were before the world told you who to be.